Every rule in the games industry says this shouldn't have worked. You don't launch a game with no marketing. You don't skip the reveal. You don't skip the hype cycle. But Respawn Entertainment did all of it. Dropped with absolutely no warning. On February 4th, 2019, at 10 a.m. Pacific time, Apex Legends simply existed. This is the story of Apex Legends, a game that was announced and released on the same day, that hit 1 million players in 8 hours. 25 million players in its first week. And nobody, not analysts, not journalists, not even its own publisher, saw any of it coming. First, if you've never played it, let me paint you a picture. Imagine a battle royale, but the movement was built by the same studio that made Titanfall 2, sliding down hills at full speed, ziplining across the map, feeling less like a shooter and more like a parkour film. And then there were the legends. Each character had a unique set of abilities, not just a skin and a different gun, actual abilities, actual tactical identities. A character who could phase through walls, a character who called in airstrikes, a character who could revive a downed teammate from across the map using a drone. But the thing that actually changed gaming wasn't the movement, and it wasn't the legends, it was this. A contextual communication system. One button, any information you could possibly need. Enemy here, loot here, go here, danger here. Communicated instantly to anyone without voice chat. Within a year, every major shooter had a version of it. Within 3 years, it was considered a baseline feature. A mechanic invented by Apex Legends became so standard so fast that people forgot where it came from. And the map you dropped into was like anything in the genre at the time. Kings Canyon was designed around the movement system. Every zipline, every cliff, every building height, built for exactly how the Legends moved. You could play 100 hours and still find routes you've never tried. Most battle royales had maps. Apex had a playground. At 10 a.m. Pacific on February 4th, 2019, Respawn sent review codes to 6 streamers. 6. No press embargoes, no staged reveals, no paid partnerships. Just 6 people and a live game that anyone can play immediately. Within 2 hours, Apex Legends was the most watched game on Twitch. The numbers that came back were not what anyone had prepared for, not what Respawn had modeled for, not what EA had forecasted, and not what the servers were built for. $50 million players in 1 month. To put that in context, Fortnite took 4 months to hit 40 million. PUBG took over a year. Apex did it in 30 days, with no announcement, with no campaign, and no warning. For 3 months, Apex Legends was the most watched game on Twitch, ahead of Fortnite, ahead of League of Legends, ahead of everything. A free-to-play game from a studio that had just made a game that had almost killed them financially, had just pulled off the biggest surprise launch in gaming history. But the story doesn't end at launch numbers, because here's where it gets interesting. Apex Legends had to survive, not just launch, survive. Season 1 arrived in March 2019, 6 weeks after launch. A new legend, a new battle pass, and a monetization model that, at the time, felt generally fair. Not pay to win, cosmetics only, earnable through play. Each season brought a new legend, and each legend had a full cinematic backstory, a written lore, a personality, a reason to exist. This wasn't a live service game with a cosmetic drip feed. It was a world being built, character by character, season by season. Respawn had turned Apex into something rarer than a popular game. They turned it into a universe. Season 3 dropped a second map, World's Edge, and it wasn't just a reskin, it was a completely different game. Different sightlines, different movement, different meta. Players who mained Kings Canyon had to learn again from scratch. Respawn was making sure Apex couldn't be solved. But there's something the casual player might have missed. Apex Legends is set in the same universe as Titanfall 2. 30 years after the Frontier War, the same corporations, the same planets. Hammond Robotics, the villain of the Titanfall universe, is the organization running the Apex games. Respawn didn't abandon Titanfall, they built the world further, without the game, through its sequel. And the game found a competitive scene, not manufactured, not paid for, just players at the highest level, pushing the movement and the legends to places that developers hadn't imagined. The Apex Legends Global Series became one of the most technically demanding esports to play, and one of the most generally exciting to watch. 3-team ring-close scenarios that no other game produces, ability stacking, squads rotating, legends countering legends, in real time, under pressure, at the World Championship level. The game had grown up. There's a version of this story where Apex Legends never exists, where Titanfall 2, released in October 2016, launches in a quieter month, sells 4 million copies, and Respawn rebuilds a sequel everyone wanted. That version didn't happen. Titanfall 2 sold poorly enough that Titanfall 3 was quietly shelved. And so Respawn made a Battle Royale instead. Not because that was the dream, because that was the path that kept the studio alive. There's a bitter irony in there somewhere. The game that killed Titanfall 3 saved the team that would have made it. But here's what I keep coming back to. Every major shooter released after February 2019 has a ping system. Call of Duty has one, Warframe had one, even games from studios that would never publicly credit Apex. They all have it, because it works, because Apex proved it. Respawn today is a different studio to the one that nearly collapsed in 2016. Star Wars Jedi, Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, a studio that went from almost finished to one of the most respected developers in the industry, because they dropped a game with no warning one Tuesday morning, and the world answered. There's a lesson somewhere in the Apex Legends story that goes beyond gaming. Sometimes the right thing, done the right way, doesn't need a campaign, doesn't need a countdown, doesn't need a hype machine. It just needs to be good enough that when people find it, they can't stop talking about it. 50 million players in 30 days. A ping system that changed how games communicate. A studio that refused to stay down. Apex Legends wasn't the game anyone planned. It was the game that nobody saw coming, and that nobody forgot. If you've never played Apex Legends, there's a squad forming right now. It's free. just drop in.